This is a real important topic relative to patient education. And the reason I want to do this is that we had this had a discussion with one of the associate doctors that this was going on with him, and he didn't know it. But anyway, one of the not associate doctors, but one of my clients. So we did a statistical analysis. And remember, when you do a statistical analysis, especially when you know how to read statistics, man, it changes how you practice so drastically and fast. That's why learning how to not only record statistics, but how to interpret them, then you know what to focus on, and you can just really significantly increase your practice fast. So anyway, here's the example. So this doctor learned the patient education material, did real well. He was only seeing 40 visits, so roughly about 40 visits a week. He'd been in practice about, I think, 4 years, something like that. So definitely long enough to, he should be doing real well by now, but he was only seeing 40 visits a week. So 40 visits a week after 4 years in practice, that's obviously not good. So he installed our patient education system, and it increased his practice just under 100 visits a week. So he goes from 40 visits a week up to 130, right around there, 120. And it would still do a little bit better, but one of his limiting problems is he did not have a therapist. So he did well. He took his practice up to the next tipping point, and he didn't have a therapist. Well, now that becomes a limiting factor for leverage of time to see patients, especially during industrial hours. It's very difficult to do therapy, put people on and off therapy, do your regular visits, do your patient education. And then the big mistake everybody makes is they have the front desk person running their ass back and forth, putting them on and off therapy. Now that person's not doing their job. So everything comes to a screeching halt, with when you hit different tipping points. And most doctors never even recognize it because they don't analyze it, or they don't have the experience to analyze it, or they don't keep statistics. But anyway, we looked at his statistics, and he had really good patient retention. Day one, day two, day three, day four. His prepay rates they were a little lower. Um, they were 50, what were they, 49%. So that definitely could have been better. Um, but then we saw a big drop off. So when we did a statistic, his biggest drop off was around 20 visits. And I'm going, what's going on here? What are you doing around 20 visits? Because there's a reason there's a big drop off at 20 visits. That's like, we know where the most common drop offs are day one to around the 8th to 12th visit, or just above 20. But he wasn't even doing lifestyle patient education. So there's a big drop off around 18, 20, something like that. And I'm going, what are you doing? And he goes, oh, yeah, I forgot to tell you. He goes, that's my average patient um, recommendation. So he did pretty good. Not Definitely not where he should be. You should be at least a 70% prepay acceptance rate. 70%. He's at 49. So there was definitely some upside. And if he would have been up to 70%, he probably would be seeing 150 to 170 patient visits a week instead of 130. Um, and he wouldn't even be able to do that because he's running his ass around the back. So that wouldn't it would all come crashing down anyway. So, but the point is, um, so we go, what do you do? What do you do? What are you basing your care on? See, that's the big question. That's really one I wanted to address. Because remember, patient retention is always based on the doctor's conviction. If you don't believe something, you can't sell it. So he believed the patient education enough to sell up to 20 visits. And then he runs into the second problem. He let money interfere with patient care. And this is a big, big problem that doctors start feeling self conscious or whatever when they start getting the larger dollar amounts, or what in their mind are larger dollar amounts, because everybody has a different perspective of cost. So he had two problems. One, He didn't have a belief system to take patients past 20 visits. He didn't know what to base it on. He agreed with some of the basic, bowel markers and when they should get done, blah, blah, blah. But here was the other problem. He was not even, he had two problems that were keeping him stuck. Well, three. Let's leave the employee in the back. Let's leave that part alone for a second. That's pretty easy to fix. Much harder to fix yourself than to hire an employee. Much harder. So that would be real easy to fix, to have labor to help process the patients. That'd be real easy to shoot them up. But it doesn't matter if he's still at 49%. That's not a good number. It's definitely better than 40 visits a week. But anyway, so that's the second problem. Well, what was the problem? And then, so the two big problems, and the reason I'm pointing this out right now is these are very common scenarios, limiting scenarios with patient education and doctors. One is as the visit recommendations going up, they see the dollar amount going up, and that starts creating inhibitions. The doctors, start thinking, they can't afford it, or they're not going to be able to afford it, or blah, blah, blah. All that negative self-talk. And you know what I'm talking about when I say negative self-talk. So the first thing you have to do is you have to separate out money. You have to.